There are 4 ways to grow a B2B business, and most founders run them in the wrong order. I'm going to show you the order I give my clients, starting with the one nobody wants to hear. And by the end, you'll see why the order matters more than the channels themselves. Because done in the right sequence, each one makes the next one cheaper and easier. Done in the wrong sequence, and you're basically burning money. Here's a quick map, so we're quite literally on the same page. So every B2B growth method can fit on this axis. So along the x-axis, you've got trust. Along the y-axis, you've got scale. So this first one, strategic in-person events, this is very much the go-to for most B2B business owners, getting in the room with people. So that can look like a number of things, which I'll go into, but think networking, podcast opportunities, golf rounds, and this is without doubt the thing that will develop trust the most, especially in the age of AI. And content is basically this, but at scale. So that's where you're putting out regular content to help people understand how you think, how you work, what your personality is. And over time, it helps build up trust one-to-many rather than one-to-one. Then on the other side, we have the lower trust versions of business development. So we've got outreach. So that's where you find who you need to speak to and reach out to them either through message, through calls, whatever approach you prefer. And the scalable version of that is paid ads, where you're putting your message in front of the people who fit your ideal client profile. Now, here's the mistake. Most founders pick one of these and over-index on it. Usually it's ads, because ads feel like a machine. You get an agency, you put money in, and then you get leads out. Running ads with no trust and an unproven message is the most expensive education you'll ever buy. The right play is a sequence, and it's got 3 phases. So here's phase 1, the one that nobody wants to hear. So if you're starting from 0 marketing efforts, what I always get my clients to do is do strategic in-person events paired with LinkedIn outreach. Now, I know you wanted me to say post content or run ads, but stay with me here, because there's one insight in this phase that changes everything. Invitations are easier than asking for a meeting. Think about the last cold message you got, right? Hey, would love to grab 30 minutes of your time to show you how we can help your business. Delete. Now compare that to, hey, we're hosting a roundtable event or social for founders in your industry this month. Small group, no pitching, just good conversation. Would you like some more information? One is asking a stranger for your time so they can sell you something. The other is offering you something of value. It's the same outreach channel, but a completely different psychology. And your reply rates won't even be in the same ballpark. When my clients use this, they get 20 to 30% reply rate compared to, if you're familiar with outreach in any form, you're usually looking at low single-digit reply rates when you use that medium. So it's pretty significant. And this isn't just something that I recommend to clients. It's how I run in my own business. So I run an event called the Wharf Social. So people in Sydney get invited. It's almost entirely through LinkedIn outreach. And because it's only a small group of 6 to 8 people, it's actually a really easy event for me to organize. And we do it on a boat, so that also helps. But even if you don't have a boat, it's a great way to get in the room and start building a community that works within your own schedule. Sometimes I get people who want to work with me right off the bat. Usually about 10 to 20% of people who come along are ready to work with me within a month. But sometimes it might be a few months later and they'll get back in touch with me when they want to do something, or if they want to refer me some work. And here's what surprised me the most. The value wasn't just the pipeline that was generated from it, but it's really that sense of community and peer-to-peer learning that I got the most out of, because the conversations on board with that size of event is really awesome. And you can go really deep fast. Now, which event format is right for you? What you want to do is you want to match the seniority of your buyer and think of it like a ladder with 3 rungs. So rung 1 is industry socials. So this is a great format if you're selling to SMEs and you want to get SME business owners in the room. These are usually people still working in their business, and they love saying yes to a good social. Because as a business owner, it's very hard to find people in a social setting who understand what it's like running a business. So if you bring those people together, it's awesome. But even if you don't have a boat like I did, you can pick a really nice venue and just make it happen. So rung 2 then are industry roundtables. These are similar to the social aspect, but they can work for both SME and enterprise level clients. But there's a rule that everyone misses. So the larger the organization you want represented, the stronger the draw card has to be. Principle, right? The true high achievers always want to be the least accomplished person in a room, because that's where growth happens. So if you want the CEO of a major bank at your roundtable, there has to be other CEOs and COOs. If they walk in and see a crowd of people 2 levels below them or much smaller businesses, it doesn't just bore them, it tarnishes the perception of the whole event. And you as the host wear that. An SME level, a roundtable lives on a sharp topic that's industry relevant. At enterprise, it lives on who else is in the room. Curation isn't a nice to have. Curation is the event. Now, rung 3 won't be for everyone, but it's very powerful, and that is golf. Because here's the ceiling on business events generally. Getting enterprise C-suites to a standard networking event is about as likely as snow in January here in Sydney. Not happening. There's gatekeepers, they got packed calendars, and a lot of them have zero interest standing in a room with name badges on. But if you can invite an executive who golfs to a round at one of Australia's top courses, that's a completely different conversation. Because now you're not asking for a meeting, you're offering them something they actually enjoy. And instead of fighting for 30 minutes of their calendar, you get 4 to 5 hours of quality time with no gatekeepers and no pitch deck. Full transparency, I believe in this so much, it's literally my other business. But imagine golf is a community of founder-led businesses doing over 2 million in revenue who want to grow through golf and events, who want to grow through golf and strategic networking events. And the core play is exactly what I just described. Use the invite to a championship course to get quality time with prospects and partners you couldn't otherwise reach. So in summary, socials are for SME businesses, industry roundtables when you want to fill it with industry peers, and golf when you won't call them do anything else. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be golf. It can be tennis, paddle, basically any sort of activity that doesn't feel like work. But whichever rung you're on, the play is identical. Use LinkedIn outreach and it becomes your invitation engine. When people have a positive response, you then de-platform them onto an email and send them an invite. The event itself becomes your trust engine, and you'll have real conversations with real buyers within weeks, not months. And once events and outreach are producing conversations, you can then enter phase 2, which is start creating content. Now, why it's second and not first is because now you have something most first-time content creators don't. You're sat across from your buyers and your partners. You'll know their objections, their actual words, and the content stops being guesswork. And the content in phase 2 does 2 jobs at once. The job 1 is it's scalable. A conversation at an event is usually between 1 to 3 people maximum. If you go to a networking event, it's very hard to have a deep conversation with any more than 3 people. But a video reaches people while you sleep for years. Think about you right now watching this video. I don't know where I am at the time of you watching this, but I know I'm not in the room with you, but it feels like I am. And it's the only channel that you can get that is high trust and high scale. That's why it helps to anchor the whole system. But it's very slow to start because the biggest trust driver is long form video or audio, if you can do it. So my channel, for example, has about 60 subscribers right now, but the numbers don't really matter because of how I use the content elsewhere in the system. Because job 2, and this is the one people rarely talk about, is actually helps to supercharge your events because the content can become part of your nurture sequence. But pre-event, when someone accepts an invite, they will get drip-fed content from my YouTube relevant to them straight into their inbox. And they arrive at the event already knowing who I am and what I'm about. And then post-event, instead of the, hey, great to meet you email that goes nowhere, attendees get your best thinking on the exact problem that you discussed at the event. So the event opens up the relationship and content then keeps it warm until they're eventually ready to do business with you. So literally the same event, same costs, but meaningfully more attendees converting The channels aren't parallel bets. They're gears that work together like a flywheel. Quick pause. I put this whole system, all 3 phases, what to do in each, what has to be true before you move on to the next, into a 1-page roadmap. It's the same one I walk my clients through, and it lives inside my free LinkedIn Founders Club community on School. One thing to know, unlike most free school groups that auto-add anyone with a pulse, I personally vet every single application. That's deliberate because it keeps the community full of actual operators applying what you're in the roadmaps, waiting for you along with the rest of my resources. Phase 3 is where most people get ahead of themselves. So phase 3 is ads. It's last on purpose. Here's the thing about ads in 2026. The ad platforms, especially the likes of Facebook, are so advanced now. The skill of targeting isn't as important as the skill of the actual creative itself. The creative has become the targeting. And what separates ads that print money from ads that burn it are the hooks, the angles, and the message. Does that sound familiar? Because that's the exact muscle that you're building in phase 2 of your content. Every video you make, every hook you test, every piece of content that worked or flopped, that was ad school, and your organic audience paid the tuition. By phase 3, you also have proven demand. You know which messages land because you've watched them land. In rooms, in the comments, in replies. Now ads stop becoming a gamble and become a volume dial on messaging that you've already validated. And again, I do this right now in my own business. I can turn meta ads on and off like a tap. I can usually get leads booked automatically into my calendar for around $81 per call. I can usually expect an ROI of at least $4x of dollars into meta versus close deals back. And the really great thing about doing this in phase 3, you can be very self-sufficient for it depending on the size of your business. It's not complicated targeting. You don't actually need an agency. Now, to be clear, this isn't agencies are useless. It's that the creative skill set is most of the game now, and content is where you build it. And once you have it and you can run it in-house, you end up with real control over your numbers because you're not having to waste half your marketing budget on a marketing agency to run the ads for you. Now let's step back and look at what we've built. You do your outreach, inviting people to a strategic in-person event. You can then create content about that event. And when these 3 are all working together, you can put in paid ads to really put a fire under getting eyeballs on your strategic in-person event. You can then spend quality time with people here and significantly increase your conversion. So from an event, you want to aim for around 20 to 30% conversion. If you get 10 people in a room, highly likely 2 to 3 of them will end up doing business with you. That's the difference between a flywheel and 4 disconnected tactics. Same channels everyone else is using, but the order is the strategy. If you're starting from 0 marketing effort, don't post for 6 months to crickets. Don't torch 10 grand on ads. Run a small event or invite people to something like the Magic Golf event and use LinkedIn as the driver for that. Now, if you haven't yet, apply for the LinkedIn Founders Club. The link is in the description and you'll get your roadmap once you're in. And one more thing, part of the reason founders get this order wrong is a labeling problem. They file half these channels under social media, treat them as a nice to have, and hand them to whoever's youngest in the office. That's a mistake. And you don't have to take my word for it. Mark Zuckerberg admitted it under oath in a federal courtroom. In this next video, I show you exactly what he said, what Meta's own numbers reveal, and what it means for where you put your efforts. See you there. Bye.